So is everybody vaccinated yet? Yes? Yes? Ready to go outside again?
Yes?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Why not just watch another one of my videos, huh?
Mama don't like tattletales.
Back in the old days, the long, long ago of March 2020, when we could still go outside and have fun times in the sun before the coronavirus traveled from house to house like a plague of Egypt, I went to the movie theaters. And yes, I knew that this was going to be the last time I'd be able to do something like this before everything shut down and the world became what it is. But damn it, I just had to go. It was the little movie that could. A film that was set to come out in September of 2019 until somebody got real mouthy on Twitter and said it was going to be bad for the country. And then a cable news channel decided to parrot that asshole like the sycophants that they are. And in the wake of several mass shootings, the film was put on hold by the studio, seemingly indefinitely. But then, in February 2020, I finally saw this movie was getting released. The film, The Hunt, was coming out of the Blumhouse production line, which either meant it was going to be a pretty good to almost great action horror film, like the Purge franchise, or, I want to put this delicately, but I don't know if I can, even though I respect the hell out of the production model that is Blumhouse, a real piece of trash, like Fantasy Island. But I was psyched. It looked like the satirical takedown this country needed, something that had intense action choreography, visceral gore, and a tongue so far in its cheek, it was like that one scene in The Wolverine where he gets hit by a bottle in the face and there's like a piece of glass sticking out of his cheek and then he goes like, and it just comes out and his cheek heals. Am I the only one who remembers that scene so vivid? But that was all set dressing. What I was most excited for was to have a movie that had a message, a theme, a damn statement that could be cathartic in this hellish landscape we call US politics. From the trailers, it marketed itself as being satirical, mentioning free speech and liberal elites, and the most talked about movie of the year. And the premise of having liberal elites take a gathering of deplorables to a game preserve where they reenact a most dangerous game is a movie that had potential to say something profound, something necessary in a time where patriotism is politicized, where lawmakers get applause for not doing their jobs. But then a little over an hour and a half after I got into the theater, I walked out. And it was fine. And don't get me wrong, I thoroughly enjoyed myself watching the movie. I have the DVD to prove it, see? It has an impeccable performance by Betty Gilpin. I'd say a star-making performance as an action heroine. A pithy take on everyone lampooned in the film. And Craig Zobel can direct the hell out of an action sequence or two. But after digesting the movie, letting it sit and just think about what it was trying to say, all I can come up with is not much. In order to get where I'm coming from, we're going to first have to talk about Satire. So what we're drinking tonight is what I like to call Sprite. You get lemon hard seltzer and lime hard seltzer. Do this. Cheers. Lyman. Satire is a form of art that is meant to shame individuals, corporations, governments, or society at large, in order to shine a light on something that the author finds as repugnant, in order to better society as a whole. Most instances of satire are meant to be humorous, although the goal is not necessarily to make you laugh, but to point out problems in the world and offer constructive social criticism and draw attention to societal ills. Sarcasm and irony are often used in satire. But unlike using these devices in other forms of art, literary critic Northrop Frye states, "In satire, irony is militant." This means that even the lightest instance of satire has a bitter aftertaste, in order to make the viewer, reader, or audience member think more about what was said. As I stated earlier, satire isn't always supposed to be humorous. George Orwell utilized satire in his novel 1984, which was less of a barrel of laughs and more of a paranoid authoritarian nightmare future, where we are in a constant forever war with no free press, no privacy, and a secret police state that is out to get you even if all you want is to get fucking laid. I'm serious, that's what the novel's about. That and rats. That being said, satirists often use humor because the laughter of the absurd situation the author puts the characters into is like the sugar coating of an aspirin pill that he is trying to give to society to fix the headache of whatever he's mad about. Here's how I, not at all a literary person, can tell if a work is satirical. The presence of rage, with a clear target with institutional power being the target of the comedy. So films like Get Out, Dr. Strangelove, and Tropic Thunder are all examples of satire, attacking the inherent racism of liberal suburbia, the leadership of the Cold War and mutually assured destruction, and the Hollywood studio system as a whole, respectively. Meanwhile, films like An American Carol can't be classified as satire because it's not attacking any institutional powers per se, as an individual documentarian, Michael Moore, and promoting the mythology of America through a who's who of celebrity cameos portraying American historical figures, and is 83 minutes of what can barely be considered comedy. How far you've fallen. Et tu, David Zucker? For a concrete example of satire, I'm going to go to a film that I watch every Easter, Monty Python's Life of Brian. Apart from being the first time I saw full frontal male nudity on my TV screen, it has a scene where, after I explain it to you all, we can appreciate what satire is. Comedy only works when the joke is explained to you, right? Right. The film is set in Jesus' time, so Judea in 30-something. I'm not a history person. There is a running gag about a variety of separatist movements in Judea. The Judean People's Front, the People's Front of Judea, the Popular Front. Split up! These are essentially terrorist organizations meant to spread violence to overthrow an empire. During this film, when it was being made, what was happening in the British Isles? The Troubles. In the same year that this film came out, Charles Dance was killed in the first episode of the 4th season in The Crown. So terrorism and terrorist acts were a thing that kind of happened in Northern Ireland and throughout the British Isles. Pipe bombs, trash can bombs, car bombs. Do not order an Irish car bomb in Ireland. All sorts of bombs. But the thing that they're satirizing with all of these separatist movements is not the violence that was being perpetrated, but the perpetrators of the violence based on their organizations. The Irish Republican Army, which was essentially the militant down with the colonial powers movement in Ireland from the 1910s, disbanded or splintered in the 1960s. So, starting in 1969, you've got the Provisional IRA, the official IRA Belfast Brigade, and the Shore era. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sour era. Doesn't matter because they're terrorists. But that's only the separatist, the Republican movements. If you get to the loyalist movements, you've got the Ulster Volunteer Force, the Red Hand Commandos, the Red Hand Defenders. You get my point. And you get Monty Python's point. Making legitimate terrorist organizations out to look like this bunch of buffoons who can't organize is a way to stick up your middle finger at assholes who kill civilians and say, hey, you're fucking stupid. But when it comes to satire in film, that's not just off-the-wall absurdism and might actually make an impact with the desired audience. It's hard to find a filmmaker with more on their minds politically than John Carpenter. Director of film nerd classics like Escape from New York, The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, and Halloween, Carpenter has always had big ideas in his movies. Whether it's about a post-apocalyptic wasteland where the island of Manhattan has been walled up and turned into a literal prison island, or if it's about a string of babysitters getting murdered by a man in a desaturated Captain Kirk mask. All of his films have a sort of anti-authority vibe. Carpenter's protagonists are, for the most part, men who have a one-liner for every situation they're in, have deep-seated rage that is bubbling just under the surface like a volcano, and have various levels of disdain for authority. Even the one film of his that has a police officer as the protagonist, Assault on Precinct 13, is transgressive. Because back in 1976, one would be hard-pressed to find a mainstream action film where the hero was a black man. One of Carpenter's raddest, baddest, angriest, most transgressiviest films is 1988's They Live. Based on the short story 8 O'Clock in the Morning by Ray Nelson, it stars Rowdy Roddy Piper as Nada, the drifter with no name who walks into Los Angeles with nothing but his flannel shirt and his jeans in his possession, looking to find work. He constantly walks by people watching television, and a key moment is when he sees someone staring through a shop window at a television set as if they are zombified. Nada winds up in a shantytown where he befriends construction worker Frank Armitage, played by Keith David, and a church group that seems to be keeping these people alive. His first night in the shantytown, there's a television set that gets disrupted by a hacker who states that the poor and underclass are growing, racial justice and human rights are non-existent, they have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. After a police raid on the shantytown and a blind priest is beaten basically to death by riot gear armed police officers, Nada finds a box that was previously seen in the church, and inside he finds a pair of sunglasses. With these sunglasses, Nada is able to wake up, so to speak. He sees through the facade to find the real world underneath. While wearing the glasses, the color drains to black and white, but the world is clearer than ever. Nada sees billboards that say obey and marry and reproduce, magazines that read stay asleep, and money that reads this is your God. But that's not all. At a newsstand, he sees a grotesque skull of an alien face on a man next to him. When he takes the glasses off, the skull disappears into the face of a wealthy-looking man. As he explores the city, he sees more and more of these figures, all in prominent positions of power, and all sporting things that would make Michael Douglas's character in Wall Street just proud. Politicians on TV, ladies with scores of helpers at their disposal, and men in finance who fast-track it all the way to the top. I said this was satire. I never said it was subtle. After making his presence known by causing a scene at a grocery store, calling an alien woman formaldehyde face, and real fucking ugly, the police come after him. After taking out the alien officers, he grabs their revolver and the shotgun from their squad car. He goes to the cathedral of Reagan-era capitalism, a bank, wherein, after finding it teeming with alien invaders, the oft-quoted greatest line in cinema history is uttered.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
He proceeds to kill several of them before retreating into an alley, where we find a police officer. But here's the thing. He's a human. He wears the badge of a system created by aliens to pacify us, but he doesn't know that he's part of a sinister cabal. This is where the real satire is. It's not that there's aliens living among us. It's that as we conform to the mandates of society, we allow the control to perpetuate. And just to be clear, before I start sounding too much like a red pill conspiracy QAnon nutbag who is afraid of a real deep state cabal and is, sucking blood out of fucking children or whatever, the aliens are explicitly not meant to be considered as a Jewish organization that is controlling the world in secret and possibly has space lasers. John Carpenter clearly explained that very specifically in 2017 in a tweet, saying that the movie is about yuppies and unrestrained capitalism, and that those who believe it is about Jewish control of the world are slanderous and liars. After evading the aliens and meeting back up with the revolutionary group and having one of the most amazing fight sequences ever where a man is trying to get another man to wear a pair of sunglasses, Nada, Armitage, and a woman who needs little convincing set a plan in motion to take down the system that keeps humans from seeing the aliens' true forms. They take down the system, but not before being betrayed by the woman and both dying from gunshot wounds. The final shot of the film is a woman having sex with a man, but as she looks down to see his face, it is blue with red bug eyes. Before she can scream, he says, "Hey, what's wrong, baby?" And we cut to black. From the opening shot of They Live, the motif of hidden and subliminal messages being everywhere is directly shown. Before Carpenter's melodic Western theme song is even played, the title of the film dissolves from a black background to a graffiti-covered wall with the words "They Live" in spray paint, amongst a mural covered with other forms of street art. A profound image underscoring the film's theme of innocuous things in daily life having a deeper, sinister meaning. And after following Nada through the decrepit streets of Los Angeles, we find him talking about his tough time in the job market to a disinterested employment agency worker. In good movies, especially Satire, with a visionary director, nothing is wasted. And in They Live, even the blind priest is an opportunity for symbolism, delivering lines like, "The world may have blinded me, but the Lord has let me see," making unrestrained capitalism and Reagan-era economic policies a literal alien invasion meant to keep working people destitute, is transgressive as hell, and shows that John Carpenter was raging against the machine before, well, Rage Against the Machine. And since I said that Satire is supposed to have a point for every scene that it has, and that an almost 8-minute fight scene in a 94-minute film, almost 7.5% of the film's runtime, could be seen as excessive, here's why it isn't. The scene is about how once we wake up to how soul-sucking, how all-consuming, how fucked up the rampant capitalism of Reagan's America was, you can't go back to not seeing. And that those who can't see, because they are so connected to it, so comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, they would rather fight you until you are both battered and bleeding in an alleyway than accept that the system was built to keep you down. Now that is some good-ass satire. New Sprite. The hunt opens with what's essentially the inciting incident. It's clear from the text chain and the context these are liberal elites, and they discuss their plans to hunt deplorables at a manor. The text chain is out of context, and just goes to make jokey jokes about our quote-unquote rat-fucker-in-chief, and a gif of a turtle having sex with a shoe. It doesn't so much as explore the theme of the movie, rather it explicitly states the clear-cut camps the filmmakers see in the world. Liberal cucks and racist deplorables. There are no shades of gray. Every character in this film is a bastard. The liberals and conservatives alike have their worst traits dialed up to 11. But does the film have anything deeper that it wants to say about it? Let's find out. One thing that works in the hunt's favor is that we don't get a good idea of who the protagonist of the film is until the 15-minute mark. In a 90-minute movie, you'd think that would be a detriment. But up until we officially meet Betty Gilpin's Crystal, we follow several other of the hunted for various amounts of time. Emma Roberts' Yoga Pants, Justin Hartley's Shane, and Ike Barinholtz's Staten Island. Until they are, in one way or another, taken out of the movie. This free-flowing protagonist story device allows for the filmmakers to give the audience an idea of who is here. And rather violently, I might add. It sets up a thrilling sequence where we can immediately empathize with these people being attacked by an unseen gang. That is, until they open their mouths. It's in this sequence where the cracks begin to show. The script, written by Damon Lindelof and Nick Cuse, has a moment in the sequence where we're following Staten Island. He finds a woman whose bottom half of her body has been blown off by a mine, lying in a pit of spikes. This movie is fun. But when he refuses to kill her, she grabs the pistol, yells, fucking snowflake and shoots herself in the head. Now, using the term snowflake in and of itself is not necessarily indicative of trying to say something about society at large, but added to the terms used throughout the film, such as cuck, deep state, First Amendment as a verb, crisis actor, and of course deplorables, is clearly meant to capture the current political moment. But don't take my word for it. Self-described libtard cuck that I am. Take it from producer Jason Blum, who calls the film a social thriller. And on the DVD extras, the filmmakers make statements that are meant to prove that this is more than just your run-of-the-mill action horror film. They never outright call it satire. But when director Craig Zobel says the goal was to do something that was a roast on both sides, and co-writer-producer Damon Lindelof says,
then our hope is that you think about it a little bit, that it stays with you.
Well, Damon, you wanted us to think about it a little bit? I have. I fucking have. And when you say that it could be the fundamental idea that mankind is going to politically break into two disparate ideologies, and the two will be at war with each other for as long as we draw breath on this earth. And ain't that a shame? All I can say is, while you might think that is satire, it is, in fact, not satire. Satire, while often pessimistic, with tragic endings, is not an art form that is simply resigned to the fact that the world is going to simply eat up and shit out everyone who is a part of it. Just saying, ain't that a shame, and basically giving up is not what satire is about. And it's a pretty shitty worldview in my opinion. Another problem with the film is that everyone seems to be caricatures and stereotypes, not actual characters, apart from the protagonist, Crystal. She is the only one who acts rationally. And this problem can be seen in two parts. You've got the opening sequence, where everyone gets killed faster than they can become characters, and the scenes in the bunker with the elites. In those scenes, there are more instances of liberal stereotypes shown per capita than anywhere else on the goddamn planet. But there's no satire to it. It's just saying these stereotypes. I don't want to ruin the movie by spoiling anything more than I already have, but there was a joke about feminism and feminists that could have been changed ever so slightly to paint them as possibly hypocritical, which could have been a statement about liberal talking points, rather than have this character simply be the embodiment of feminism, whatever that means, to her mortal end. And to be clear, yes, I know what I look like, and me talking about feminism is not meant to be talking about actual feminism. I'm talking about feminism represented by this movie. I'm just trying to find something. You know, I'm trying to figure out what this movie is trying to say. When looking to find any semblance of theme, I think I've got kind of an idea. Ignorance is a very big theme in the movie, and ignorance being a detriment to society could be the bigger idea of what this movie's trying to say. The liberals do not give a shit about the deplorables they are hunting. The deplorables do not give a shit about the liberals either. And the scene in which Crystal takes out the convenience store couple is shown that she gets the better of them because of their ignorance in the fiction that they created. Because they don't know that cigarettes cost $6 in Arkansas. You fucked up, bitch! In order to get the idea of ignorance, I'm gonna have to spoil something key. So, watch the movie and then come back and watch the end of this. I can wait. I'll just wait. You know, no big deal. You back? The plot revolves around a hacker revealing a fictional hunting of deplorables by the liberal elite antagonists that get them fired from their respective jobs. To retaliate, the liberals, led by Hilary Swank's Athena, giving an incredible performance, go and make The Hunt, which was initially just a text chain joke, into a reality. They target those who caused them to lose their respected names and their jobs by promoting this idea of the fake hunt, which, while making the antagonist's motivations more personal and therefore stronger, gives the whole premise less of a comment on society and more of a vengeful people scorned sort of thing. And if that's not bad enough, our protagonist Crystal was mistakenly brought to the manor. Crystal, the only character in the film who is militantly apolitical. Crystal, the only character who makes it aware to the audience that she is a veteran. Crystal, our hero that gives us a unique diatribe on the fable of the tortoise and the hare. Our protagonist was brought to the hunt on accident. Now, if argued correctly, I can see how the film can be saying something about how our own ignorances and biases against people who don't think like us is the root cause of our problems as a country. And we need to listen to each other, be more empathetic, and realize that we are in this together as a country. That people don't care about truth because they are right. That they've made up their minds before coming to the proverbial table. But that's not satire. That's theme. Satire would be trying to do something about our entrenched society. Not have our central character be like, clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right, here I am, trying not to die in this crazy polarized system. And while we're on some big subjects, should we talk about race? I know that I'm the last person that should be trying to figure out what a film has to say about race. But 3 guys who also look like me felt that they should force race into their movie. So, bottoms up. Here we go. The liberals are almost all white people. The hunted are exclusively white people. And even when the opportunity arose to include a black person into those deplorables in a really weird PowerPoint presentation that breaks the entire pacing of the film in between the second and third acts, they say that they could never hunt a black person because of the optics. Am I saying anything with what I've just said? No. But neither are they. The film uses George Orwell's 1945 allegorical novella, Animal Farm, in a way that would make him roll over in his grave. The liberals, decided by Athena, refer to Crystal as Snowball, and in the end of the film, the idea of ignorance is turned on Athena's head as it is made clear that she doesn't know who the character of Snowball is, and Animal Farm in general. However, just because you pay lip service to a historical piece of satire that paints the communist totalitarian state as literal pigs, that does not make your work of art, in fact, satire. You know what, guys? Maybe the real satire was the ignorance I found along the way. Maybe the filmmakers meant to make a movie that really didn't say much, so that we could find that they're not saying anything of substance, allows for us to find out what is and is not satire. Maybe this movie is a satire of satire. Fuck if I know. Look, I'm not trying to be a bummer. I actually thoroughly enjoyed my time watching the movie, and avidly recommend it to anyone who enjoys action comedies. It has some kick-ass action sequences, and that final fight scene between Crystal and Athena, it's full of thrills and laughs derived from the action choreography. It makes you bite your lip in tension at some of the moments, and I'm now a huge fan of stunt coordinators Hank Amos and Heidi Moneymaker. Their work is masterful. And Crystal, hell, she's a mixture of Nada from They Live and Bugs Bunny, who doesn't say much, but when she does say something, it's the perfect thing to say at the moment, and she has such a unique improvisational fighting style. Give me more Betty Gilpin as an action hero. I swear to God, she is the only reason to watch the movie multiple times. But if you are not willing to criticize and really look deep into the art that you love, you're not doing it right, and we can't be friends. If you love something, you have to be honest about it and understand why it falls short of what you may have hoped it to be. The Hunt is like the classic Chicago sandwich franchise, Potbellies. It's not necessarily the best food out there, but it's definitely not the worst. It's actually pretty good. But if you're looking for some real satire with an actual agenda behind it to help society with real, profound change, watch films like They Live, Jordan Peele's Get Out, Boots Riley's fantastic film Sorry to Bother You, or hell, even the Belko Experiment can do you in a pinch. Unfortunately, The Hunt, it falls short. Also, I definitely didn't write this whole thing because I have a podcast on Lost called Getting Lost with the O'Connor Brothers, available on Apple and Spotify and all the greats. Damon, come on the podcast. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it. Like, share, subscribe, be sure to stay tuned and look for more videos of mine coming up in the future. Get this channel monetized.